since I'm a medical doctor and since I'm teaching at the university in Russia, I always try to know what can help our students to read better the texts, to understand better, to remember better, and what can help our patients to read better, to understand better, and to memorize better the things that they read. Because many things are coming to them through reading. They should either read it in textbooks, or read them on the screen, or read from the slides, or read somehow else. That's why Boris and I are trying to make a series of different experiments, how layout or how placing the words on the page, signing, aligning, justifying, hyphenating, etc., could help or could harm those who are reading the text to do it well enough, to do it bad enough. And if there is anything that we can help with, we should probably use this even if the difference is small. That's why the design of the study was started some years ago. And Boris is always laughing that I am a president of Evidence-Based Medicine Society in our country, but this is true. And he decided to call the program that we started in 2011, Evidence-Based Typography. Why? Probably because we decided to make it as useful as possible and to use the best evidence. Means that we tried to use the best design that could help us tell you that yes, this helps, or no, this does not help, or this just doesn't matter. That's why we designed quite a simple design. So we calculated the speed of reading, how fast, how many words per minute our students, our patients read. And we put the text and the questionnaires, and we asked both patients and students in different designs of the study to answer the questions right after they read the text, and in an hour after they read the text. Because knowing how the brain works, we know that in an hour the information is already stored in other cells, and this is so-called long-term memory. So these three things were measured, and we tried different designs and different layouts for texts. And probably, Boris can tell you a little bit more about it.
You probably turned over.
Did I turn? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Now it's. Yeah, this is what we did in previous talks. It's a lot of times since 2011. We compared serif and sans serif, compared read, write, and justified fonts, and we found that most of the typographic lore about the difference between serif and sans serif, between justified and read, write, is not actually evidence-based, because there is almost no difference or very small difference.
I would say that it is evidence-based, that there is no difference.
Yeah, yeah. And then there was something that actually Leila wanted to check, and I didn't, because I thought that there could be no difference as well, but she wanted to ask a question, okay, when we do hyphenated and read write, we have something like this. We have both justified against non-justified and simultaneously hyphenated against not hyphenated, because if you correctly justify text, you split the words. So she asked, what happens if we justify but not hyphenate? And I thought it probably was a waste of time, but I said, okay, let's do it, and actually I was wrong.
And it wasn't in vain, actually, because in our first trial, we showed that there is a difference in memorizing the texts.
Yeah, so...
But we tested just with students, healthy volunteers, about 300 students, healthy, nice medical students.
Yeah. So what Leila said, okay, let's try justifying unhyphenated versus read write unhyphenated text. Well, it's very easy to make read write non-hyphenated text, you just say, for example, in LaTeX correct right, it will be, but how to justify without hyphenation? Well, the answer is you do sloppy justification. So there is, again, nice LaTeX command sloppy, or you can, and you should suppress your hyphenation either to using special package, or another trick is to use Babel, which has hyphenation patterns for different languages, and you just say, okay, this is a very strange language which you don't know anything about, and Babel will not hyphenate words. So either this or that way you can make sloppy paragraphs, and you can do something like this. On the right, on the right of you have right text. On the left you have sloppily justified text. As you see, it's justified, but the differences between the spaces between the words are very uneven and bad. This is an example of bad typography. And there are certain programs which were mentioned by Hagen in the beginning which do exactly this kind of justification. Just to compare, this is another comparison. This is sloppily justified whether what attack is done. So as you see on the, this thing is sloppy justification with a lot of different spaces. And here is the correct justification. But
and hyphenated.
And hyphenated, yes. And to tell the truth, I thought there would be absolutely no difference between here and here, but okay, let me switch it gear a little bit. Here is our...
Yeah, and I can tell you about the subjects that we used for this particular part of the study. As I told you before, the first part we've done with 300 healthy volunteers, medical students. And this part of experience was more difficult for us because we asked our patients, real inpatients, those who are hospitalized at the neurological ward, to read the text and to answer questions. That's why we have just a small number of subjects so far, but all of them are elderly people, those who are in the hospital, those who really need to read something, to memorize something, as the doctor's prescriptions, as the recommendations and advices from the healthcare professionals. And all of these patients have cerebrovascular disorders, means some ischemia of the brain, which is quite typical for many elderly people, but none of them were demented, so all of them were able to read, to comprehend, and all of them were given written tasks and instructions by their physicians. All of these patients were talking Russian language, so we gave them Cyrillic texts. All of them consented and were quite happy to participate in this study. And we put together two texts, and we call them text A and text B. Each patient got both texts, but both of them were aligned, were set up, were laid out, whatever is the right word, differently. And it was a randomized controlled trial, which is considered to be a golden standard for evidence-based medicine. And we really used a randomized computer program at randomization.com for randomizing, and the whole number of patients were very similar. I mean, all 20 subjects had similar age, similar the type of disease, similar condition, etc. And both of them got both texts, and Boris was very kind to make these texts look as we wanted them to look like.
Okay, and now let me again take this. Here is the result. This is the difference. For each patient, I can measure the difference between speed of reading for justified and for right. And the line is zero difference. As you see, you have very skewed plot, and skewed to the negative part. And this means that the justified, sloppily justified text was read a little bit slower, something like even 50 words per minute slower, which is a lot if you think that people there read about 300 words per minute. So 50 would be something like 1/6 of this. It's very noticeable. So people don't, people now look not very light on using P numbers, but still when you have P001, it still looks like something interesting to look.
And for old patients with cerebrovascular disorders, this matters. So
Yes.
50 words is a lot for them, especially if it's valuable information that is given by a healthcare professional.
Interesting enough, if we measure the difference in comprehension, as you see, there is not much difference. The graph looks very symmetric. And this is immediate. If we look at the difference after 60 minutes, it's also almost it's actually absolutely symmetric. So what can I say? We have had a very small number of patients. So far.
We will continue, actually we are continuing the experiment.
Yes, we are continuing the experiment, but it looks like when you do sloppy typesetting, maybe it's one case where the old-time typographers are right when they say, okay, better make right text than justify it wrongly. Because it looks like when you have sloppy lines, people actually take more time reading this, maybe because the spaces between words are so much uneven, so it's difficult for the eyes to look at this. Again, this is very preliminary. We just started to get some results, but it's very strange, but very interesting. It's the first time we actually got some difference between different models of text.
Yeah, for healthy students who also had them, we also got the difference. So the speed of reading was different for differently aligned texts.
Okay, so far the recommendations, again, it's very preliminary, so if you don't like these recommendations, don't follow them. But still, first, if you can justify text, if you have very good hyphenation algorithm, you can do hyphenation, or as it's now fashionable in many books, especially in art books, they do read it right, it's okay. But if you cannot hyphenate, it looks like you shouldn't justify. If you don't have good hyphenation algorithm, just leave your line read right. And the third thing, sloppy is a bad thing. It's not your friend. If you put sloppy in the beginning of the document, you probably make it bad for your readers. And here I want to finish with my a little bit of my personal anecdote. As some of you know, I'm looking at a friend. I did some of my biggest assignments so far. I redesigned all the templates and all the styles for the Association for Computing Machinery. They have a lot of journals and a lot of proceedings. I redid all of this. And when I did, I looked at the old styles. It was something, actually I think last year at TAG I talked about this. It was something to look at it. And one of the things they had in all their styles, so they had the common normal spacing, normal font, normal size, sloppy. So all the templates were sloppy. I changed it, I deleted it, and the first thing I got from the offers, I got a lot of letters saying, okay, I did not have had overfull lines before in old templates, now I have them. What did you do and why did you do this for me? And I didn't realize that there are literally tens of thousands of offers working with ACM templates, and all of them knew my email. And I was thinking about returning sloppy back, and actually I got the same request from ACM vendor who does the typeset for those who don't do themselves, who send the materials in Word, for example. And they also told me, you know what, this sloppy is so easy, you don't have it with the ugly overfull lines, everything looks fine, why don't you put it back? And now after this work, I probably can have something to talk, to tell them back and say, you know what, it's probably bad for your readers, they probably would have problems with your very nice spots in your very nice article, so please do additional work. Try to work with your overflow lines and try not to make your text setting too slow. So at least for me personally, it already gave some interesting results. Okay, that's basically all what we wanted to tell.
This time we are ahead of time and there's no time for questions.
Micro time. Okay, in this experiment we did not use microtype. In HTML, of course, we use microtype, but here we did not. And a good question is whether microtype increases or decreases reading comprehension. I don't know. I'm not sure how well microtype would work with our Cyrillic text and Russian fonts. I don't know whether microtype has a good setup for Cyrillic.
Thanks. So, is my understanding correct that what your research suggests is that if you want to typeset something important, it should be a little bit hard to read, because then people will spend more time reading it and remember it better?
Not really.
Yes. There is a school of thought which says this.
Yeah.
But you can argue, and again, it's speculations, it's hard to read and people actually don't get as much pleasure of reading because they stop their reading there. So they might not like the text. But again, if the only thing you are interested in is the comprehension, then so far we don't see the difference in comprehension. And so far we did not see the difference in the long-term comprehension when people try to recall.
We're not talking about comprehension. We're
okay.
talking about memorizing.
Memorizing, yes, memorizing.
For neurologists, it's different. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the speed was a bit different,
yes.
but not really memorizing the essence of the text.
So what text will you memorize easier?
Any. So that didn't matter.
Really no difference.
Okay.
Okay, my suggestion is to rate your question as is there any evidence that variance of space matters? Because Gutenberg did zero variance. Justification is zero variance. When you use microtype, you diminish the variance a bit. Yeah? So the question for you is there correlation between variance of spacing and reading comprehension or reading speed?
I personally would think yes. This is what I would use to explain, at least to myself, what we got. But of course, it requires much more research. But let me say that at least the research does not contradict this and suggest that it might be the case. And again, somehow, I don't know how, but the classics like Gutenberg knew a lot of things which we just now understand why they're important and how did Gutenberg know this? I don't know.
He tried to save space.
I think one more test. Radzie tried with breaking according to phrases, some on commas better and some
Logical.
Context
context on full stop, always split or something like that, maybe better.
As a neurologist, I would say that this makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, but nobody made an experience yet.
But it's
Yeah, thanks for that.
current
Yeah.
stuff is easy to implement at such.
Yeah, I would like it better, but Boris likes when text looks nicely.
For a text that looks very ugly without hyphenation, you measure plus left and justify. But did you measure centering and plus height?
No. I would think that centering would be difficult because it's unusual.
There were some papers about this, about the slides, but not about the texts.
As quotations, that looks ugly, and I was hesitating between centering them or just like that is for short excerpt, but very ugly with a quote or quotation environments.
It's a very good question. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, but you heard a lot about the slides and how to typeset the slides. Maybe you can share some information about centering and putting in other places this. Boris? No?
I don't.
Hans może.
Yes. I've actually remarked that I will do that personally. The thing is, you try to present it scientifically. You use p-values and all the other kinds of stuff. And you have 20 subjects, which is just on the edge of what's permitted in scientific results. But what I'm missing is all the things that make this very sensitive to artifacts. And that I think, like, what is the use with? Why do you do it in columns? Do you do it in columns anyway? Is it needed? What font do you use? So there are many more variables that play a role here that are not part of your measurement. So you can claim that this is easy to read if it's read right, but it can be that there is another set where you use a different font, a different width, and whatever settings, where it's perfectly readable in read right and worse in justified.
Well, the only thing I can say, of course we use the same font, the same size, and the same text in both read right and justified. But I agree that we need to have much more. But we try to control for what we could control.
Yeah, this is a pilot project, and we will add more and more on it. So thanks very much, Hans, for recommending.
Just a short complementary test for the one proposed by Piotr. For testing hypothesis that spaces are to be blamed, you can prepare a test with rugged right, but with artificially placed bad spaces and check whether this spoils readability or not.
No, we haven't done this, and actually Boris thinks that, he says, okay, let's test something like 5,000 people with a disease. It is very difficult, you know. So to collect these 20 subjects, we worked something like 4 months with 3 students. So we will definitely do many other things, but it is not that easy, and this is not that fast with patients. With healthy subjects, it is easy and faster. So for instance, last thing that we presented a couple of years ago, so we made just we asked students who came for a lecture to fill out the questionnaire, to read the text, and that was it something. The whole thing took us, 1 hour. This thing for 20, and we collected about 300 subjects. This time it took us about 4 months, 4 students, and just 20 subjects. So for patients and healthy volunteers, we have different speed of collecting subjects. Sorry about that.
Okay. Ulrich und Ernst Martin.
Thinking if it's the emphasis on how much do patients remember about the instructions could also very much depend on how the text is written or how it is worded.
Yeah, that's why we tried different texts. Boris didn't like most of them, and we took the one that he thought that could be readable by any patient with any level of education, with any level of comprehension, etc. Because we tried different types of texts. We tried the text about prevention of memory loss, secondary prevention of stroke, etc. But these texts were quite difficult to understand from Boris's point of view. So we started with indifferent text about just about the pond and the lake and the wood. So it was really not about medical conditions so far.
Okay, and the last question, Martin.
I have really a remark, a technical remark, because I'm wondering whether you know, apart from the experiment, just relating to your anecdote, there is one thing you can do between normal typesetting and sloppy typesetting.
I bet not many people know that probably. There is a nice low-level tech parameter called emergency stretch.
Yes.
So it might be useful. I think it gives you more fine-grained control than sloppy.
That's exactly the question I discussed with Frank, and he explained me that it's better not to do. I think Frank would be better to answer this question, because this question I asked him some time ago in this context, right?
Yeah, but I think we are not wanting to go into that now.
Okay.
Actually, sloppy is using emergency stretch, by the way. I mean, unless you only know the version from 1986.
Okay. I'm not sure about the definition of sloppy, but I believe it's stretch.
Emergency stretch hasn't used, but it's definitely used correctly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you again.